It's H. Wayne, W-A-Y-N-E, Carver, C-A-R-V-E-R, and it's the second. And that's why I don't use the H, because when my father asked my grandfather, he said, fine, but as long as you never call him Harold.
So can you just, real quick, did they set up a tent in the parking lot?
It wasn't a tent. It was this magnificent thing. And it's sectional, and it sticks together with Velcro, and then they stake it to the ground, and electricity and lights and heat appear. It's from the Department of Emergency Management, and I think it came from the Army, but I'm not sure. I think it's these things that they use to set up field hospitals very quickly, mobile hospitals.
And have all the children's bodies been returned to the parents or mortuaries?
I don't know. The mortuaries have all been called.
But they're ready to be released, these bodies?
The paperwork's been done as of 1:30. The paperwork is done then, and if the usual drill is the funeral homes call us, and as soon as the paperwork's done, we call them back. That process was completed for the children at 1:30 today.
So you transported the bodies where?
To our office in Farmington.
How did you transport that?
We have our transport vehicles.
How many vehicles?
We have 3 vehicles and a lot of guys that drive them.
Are these vans or
actually, one of the highlights of my administration is that we make them as nondescript and unmarked as possible. Just to foil you guys. No, they started out at 6.
When you remove the bodies, can you tell us how the numbers were coming out of the 2 classrooms of the victims? Did you list the victims in both of those classrooms?
I don't have the differential between the 2 classrooms.
And
okay.
The adults, were the majority of the adults down in the front office or in the classrooms?
I'm gonna let the police handle that because they're the scene guys.
Doc, you said you're going to examine the bodies of Nancy, Liz, and her son tomorrow?
Yes. Yes.
You'll be doing that personally?
Yeah. It just so happened it was my weekend.
Doctor, you said you can't confirm that the gunshot wounds of the assailant are self-inflicted. Is that because you don't have evidence?
I just...
You don't know?
You
haven't checked it yet?
I can't technically make that diagnosis until I examine him, okay? I mean, I don't want to belabor the obvious. That's what everybody believes at this point. But in terms of my fiduciary responsibilities, I haven't executed them yet. Okay? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. As the doctor stated, the 2 additional post-mortem examinations will be conducted tomorrow. We'll have additional information relative to the results of those examinations tomorrow. Again, I would implore you, as has been stated many times, we're asking for privacy for the families. As we've stated before, the Colonel has in fact assigned a trooper and or officers to each family to provide an open line of communication to them from us, and they will be with the families at all times in an effort to instill that privacy. We do have a list of the deceased. I'd ask you to share. We'll put it up on our website if you don't get one. Trooper Grant will be out behind us and she'll be handing out. Please take 1 per unit, if you will. And again, if you don't get one, it'll be on the website within the hour. I'm sorry? Any search engine to the Connecticut State Police website. Okay, I'll take any brief questions. Again, understanding, please, that this still is an active case. We still are working. We are still actively pursuing leads, and we are still anticipate to do so for the next 24 to 48 hours. Sir? Sir?
The wife was not left in the car?
And we didn't discuss the location of any of the weaponry at all. There's been a lot of speculation out there relative to the location of the weapons, and we'd like to do that when we have additional cohesive information to give to you about the caliber, about the ownership, and about. So I'm gonna hold that question to probably tomorrow morning. Okay? Yes, sir.
2 questions. What can you tell us? Were all 3 of the weapons fired? And number 2, what can you tell us about a previous altercation involving the gun and episode?
Okay, I can. First question I cannot answer. I'll have to get that information for you. I don't know. It's that simple. The second question is there has been talk and speculation about that, but in conversations with the the superintendent and the authorities here in town, there is no information about any confrontation.
Lieutenant, what was the mother doing with this sort of weaponry in her house when she had a son that had some mental issues?
That's certainly something that we need to look at, and our investigators will, again, peel back the onion, look at the layers, and try to answer all those questions in their investigation.
I mean, that's pretty large firepower for
Again, we'll have to examine that, sir. Yes, ma'am.
There is no information. Does that mean that it did not, no altercation happened? Or are you saying there is no information?
There is no reports. There have been no reports filed of any altercation in the school involving the individual.
Can you tell us anything about this Asperger's and his condition and his mental state?
I can just simply tell you that we have not officially identified him at this time, and it's our policy until positive identification and a postmortem is complete, we can't discuss any of the facts and circumstances of a deceased.
Can you talk about?
Yes, sir.
Did she have any connection to the woman who was found?
No, sir. Speaking with the superintendent, there was no relation at all. One more question. One more question.
Victims are Latino families that need help with English and British communication that's been established. To establish that there's still talks in the immigrant community. There's some victims that
What's very important to note, and I'd be neglectful not to mention this, the support from people not only in the community, but first of all, especially in the community of Newtown, has been outstanding. The support outside of the community has been more than outstanding. The outpouring of assistance, the offer of help, as has been reported, not only is Newtown police involved, the state police involved, we have federal authorities, other state agencies, other local police departments, other paraprofessionals, professionals. They're all here in support of the family. Certainly, we're even attempting, and we will, and we have provided support for the first responders, the fire, the police, EMS, and we're going to continue to do that, and we'll do that as long as necessary. I'm going to thank you for this. I'm going to simply say to you that this is the last briefing for today. All right, we will be here tomorrow morning. I'll give you any updates tomorrow morning, but there will be no more briefings or interview. If anything were to breaking news, I would direct you to our website. We will post it on our website. Again, we don't anticipate anything as our investigators continue their work.
Are you going to read the name? Is there anything more on the motive to them?
No, there's nothing more today. Nothing more at all.
Can you just talk about what time the female was shot at the second
We don't know, sir. I can't discuss that. I'm not going to read the names. I'll provide copies. I'll provide copies. I have some. Kelly Grant, Trooper Grant is back there with other copies.
What time tomorrow for the briefing?
About a reasonable hour.
That would be Lieutenant Vance from the Connecticut State Police. He's the man who has been holding all of these press conferences over the last 24 hours plus. He said a couple of things about the case. Before he began, he really mentioned that he was once again going to plea for the families of these children who have been killed in this terrible tragedy, that they would be left alone, left in solitude. He's assigned each family, he reminded us, a trooper to make sure that that happens. He said a couple of things about the case still being active, and he said there's still information that they're still trying to get about the caliber of the weaponry, the ownership of the guns, and so they have no information at this point that they are releasing officially, at least in this kind of a press conference format. He said they haven't even officially identified the alleged shooter, and they're waiting for the post-mortem that we know will take place tomorrow. But he also pointed out the support of the community has been outstanding, and the support of the folks outside of the community, he says, has been even more than outstanding. Before we heard from Lieutenant Vance, we heard from the medical examiner of the state of Connecticut, Wayne Carver II, and he started off by saying that his prayers and thoughts were with the entire community, had some information that he wanted to talk about. Number one, all the folks were killed by gunshots, all ruled a homicide. He believes that the children all were first graders who were killed by the gunman. He said they are working at this point from a temporary facility, taking photos, and that, in fact, by 1:30 this afternoon, all of the autopsies had been completed and the examinations had been completed on the children, and that the mortuaries had all been called, meaning at that point they would be ready to deliver the bodies back to the families of the children so far. He said that there were examinations still to be done. The shooter and his mother, the alleged shooter and his mother, those examinations, those postmortems will be done tomorrow. He talked about the wounds. He said that the wounds were caused by one weapon, at least on those that they've looked at so far, and that was the semi-automatic rifle. He said he himself did 7 autopsies, and 2 of them were close-range shootings. And he said he used pictures from the family members to ID those bodies. Said that as long as he has been doing this, it was a very tough thing, that while he was holding up well, he has a lot of experience. He said he has not sort of collapsed emotionally yet, emphasizing the word yet, because he said this was one of the toughest things that he has seen in his career. He believes that everybody, the 26 killed, including, and then the 2 others, including the shooter and his mother, but of those 26, he says he believes that each one was hit by more than 1 bullet. Wounds described when he was asked by reporters, he said all over, and gave some details, but not very many, about the scene inside of that shooting. So we're getting a few more details from the medical examiner, who we've been waiting to hear from, and also from the Lieutenant Vance from the state police, who said that this would be it in terms of updates for the rest of the day. They've been very good at updating reporters during the day, but also reminding them that they want the family members whose children are deceased to be left alone, left in solitude as they are grappling with this terrible, terrible circumstance. So that is their update from this evening press conference, the last one of the day. And of course, they were then able to release the names of those who've been killed, they've already done the postmortems on. So that is where it stands right now. Deb Fayrick is updating for us some other information as well, and I want to throw it right back to Deb. Deb?
Yeah, and Soledad, what we're learning, a law enforcement source with detailed knowledge of this investigation is telling our colleague Rita Cosby that no suicide note has yet been discovered on or near the alleged shooter, Adam Lanza. Apparently, he did live alone with his mother. That is consistent with earlier reports that after a separation followed by a divorce, that he was with his mother, living in that home. The mother, there's a big question as to why this school, why this particular school. Well, it appears that the mother, according to this source, was not a teacher at the school. She may have had a minor role, a substitute or an aide. They're still looking into what she did there, but she was definitely not an on-staff teacher, according to this source. From everything law enforcement has seen so far, the alleged shooter acted alone. Authorities are further looking into what he may have suffered from, what his mental issues were, his mental state, his mental condition. The source would not provide any details, nor would police, as a matter of fact. They are refusing to speculate on any possible mental conditions that he may or may not have had. They are checking, investigators are checking to see who the shooter, Adam Lanza, the alleged shooter, knew, either socially, professionally, who his teachers were, what doctors he may have been seeing. Clearly, there's still a father in this picture who lives in another town a couple of miles away. They're trying to learn as much as they can about this young man and why he did what he did. Also, we're being told by an investigator, Soledad, that the mom, again, not clear whether she was a substitute or whether she may have been unemployed, but it doesn't seem, at least not right now, that financial issues played any sort of a role in what happened or why it happened. The source also said there was a question of identification. Initially, the brother, Ryan Lanza, had been identified as the potential shooter, but apparently we are told that by authorities that the alleged shooter, Adam Lanza, did not have any identification on him belonging to his brother when he was found. And you know, Soledad, you commented on it, and I noted it as well, that the parents were not even able to identify their children by going to see their children. The medical examiners actually took photos so that the parents could identify their child, their children that way. And that just has to be so painful, so overwhelming. And right now, as so many people are overwhelmed with grief and sadness and pain, missing their loved ones, trying to understand what happened, trying to understand what cannot be understood.
Welcome, everybody. We're coming to you live this afternoon as we continue to cover an absolute tragedy here at Connecticut, the Connecticut elementary school shooting. Lots to update you on, as in the last few minutes we have had an update from the Connecticut State Medical Examiner and also the state police here giving us some of the latest details about this case. You just heard a moment ago Deb Farrick giving us the very latest information coming to us from details about the shooter. And of course, at this point, there are really no more words, only hope, I guess, in some ways, that the families of those who have lost everything, their prized possession, their children's families here in Newtown, Connecticut, will someday be able to find their way through this terrible grief. And then the nation will come to grips with yet another terrible tragedy.